I thought I'd start this channel off with a little discussion. Not so long back, I think it was last month, I was at the launch of the Lotus Evija, although in my head when I read it I always want to say Evija still, even though I know it's Evija. I think it's Evija, I might be right, anyway. So I was at the launch as one of the journalists there. I sat through the presentation, I got a chance to have a good nose around the car, and I shot a lot of footage whilst I was there, which I haven't used up until now, so you'll see some of that footage hopefully sprinkled throughout this video as I'm talking. But I'm a big Lotus fan, and I'm a bit of a defender of the brand, and also really want them to do really well. And lately I've been doing something that you probably shouldn't do, is I've been reading the comments. I've been reading the comments on the internet, and a lot of people have been saying, what is the point? And other people have been saying, yeah, it's all big talk, nothing's ever going to happen, typical Lotus, blah 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 blah. So I thought I'd do a quick little video on just my thoughts on the car, maybe defending some of those points, based on the fact that I've seen it in the flesh. I was at the launch, I got to have a look around it, and I got to chat with quite a few people who were involved. And I think on any of these sorts of launches, when you're talking to people, it's not necessarily what they say, but sort of is almost how they say it. But I'll come back to that in a little bit. So let's sort of recap what the Evija is, and what it means to Lotus. So it's going to be the first ever Lotus Hypercar. It's going to be the first ever electric Lotus, or at least the first ever production electric Lotus. It's going to be probably the fastest car to ever come out of the UK, and it's angling to be the fastest EV hypercar ever made. They're saying 2,000 horsepower from a four-wheel drive electric drivetrain, jointly developed with Williams Engineering. They know what they're doing. Chassis has been developed by Lotus at Hethel, designed at Hethel, and they say just over 1,000 kilos for the chassis on its own without the batteries. So very, very light for an EV car. They're saying it's going to tip the scales around 1,600 kilos for the car with all of the batteries on board. Again, very light for an EV car of any kind, let alone something that's as fast as this car's going to be. So it's incredibly fast. Another stat that I probably should mention, the one that I find quite staggering or most exciting, is 0 to 186 miles an hour in under 9 seconds. That is absolutely staggering. So supremely fast, but also it's ridiculously expensive. They're saying £1.7 million plus tax, 130 units, called the Type 130, 130 units, 130 type numbers since the foundation of Lotus as a brand. So it all sort of ties in there. You may notice that if you look online, there's no such thing as a Lotus Type 129. That is coming in the future, or so I'm told. So that's going to be the next thing that we're going to see from Lotus. But what does this car really mean? Well, it's kind of showing what Lotus can do. It's a halo model. Lotus are sort of relaunching themselves under the new Geely ownership, so it's showing what the brand is capable of. So from that point of view, it's going to be their show off, their kind of, look at what we can do. It's a bit of willy waving, as it were. But it's also previewing a bit of the new design direction that Lotus are going in. And I, for one, think it looks fantastic. It's sort of slightly squat, but it's so beautifully sculpted. Compared to a lot of hypercars out there, it actually looks beautiful, and it literally looks, I don't know, there's just something about it that looks fantastic. A lot of hypercars out there, there's lots of wings and bits, and they just look a bit fussy. The Evija is very, very, very beautiful, and I don't think pictures do it justice, frankly. especially that rear end. That rear end is fantastic. So yeah, so that's kind of what the car is about, and that's kind of how I see it as a product for Lotus going forward. So it is going to sort of define the brand, or certainly sort of give them a big sort of international platform to go, hey, remember us, we're Lotus. We, not only do we make amazing handling cars, but look at what we can build. So the next load of cars that will come from the future, that will be a more sort of achievable price point, probably more in line with Porsche, I expect. That's kind of, this car will sort of pave the way for that. The car isn't for us Lotus owners. I mean, I'm a Lotus owner, I've got a couple of Elises. It isn't for us. So a lot of the people, the sort of traditional sort of Lotus sort of fans and people that are interested in the brand, they kind of go, what's the point of the car? Well, like I say, it's not for us. It's for the very wealthy car collectors that can afford to spend a couple of million quid on something like a hypercar. But what it does mean for us as Lotus fans is it gives the brand this extra sort of elevation on the global stage. It's given the brand that sort of poster car status. When I was a kid, it was the sort of cars that I had on my wall were probably things, certainly are things that I could never afford and will probably never drive. But they, I fell in love with those cars because I sort of, I lusted after them as a child. And this car is, again, it's one of those things that people, it's very, very rare, but people lust after it. So it gives the brand an extra bit of, I don't know, something that will allow it to grow going forward and allow it to reach a new customer base, and will actually give, like I say, a nice sort of marketing platform in order to build the brand. The other thing, as well, as it gets them to, it helps them to develop new technologies. The car's heavily carbon fibre and aerodynamic, and obviously EV. All of those different things are on another level to what Lotus has been producing with their current range of cars. So it gives them a platform in order to build that technology, build that expertise, to learn. Like anything, you put the best stuff in your most expensive cars, and then as you understand it, it gets cheaper, and you refine it, and it does filter down into lower models. So again, this is not just because you can't afford over £2 million for a hypercar, doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to benefit the sort of cars that you may be looking at in the future. So there's that. And as for the comments that I've seen most often are actually the ones saying, oh yeah, it reminds me of the Danny Baja years when they launched 5 or however many concept cars at Paris. I think it was 2010. The new Esprit, new Elan, the Elite, the what else do they have there? A new Elise there. They basically just saw this flurry of cars. Well, they weren't real. They were just rolling design studies. There was no platform developed at that point. They did go on with the Esprit to get not that far off from production, from what I'm told by people who are sort of a bit closer to the project. But it was all show and no go. So I can understand why people are a little bit skeptical, because they've seen it before. And then there was, going back to the 90s as well, there was the M250, that amazing looking 2-seater V6 engine sports car that probably kind of morphed into the Evora eventually, but the M250 never arrived, and that was an amazing looking thing, fantastic looking car, and that never arrived. So a lot of people are going, well, is this another Lotus that we're not going to see? I don't think that's the case. Not only looking at that concept that we saw down in London, that's just been shown off at Monterey Car Week as well, the level of detail and fit and finish on that car is superb. The carbon fibre work is immaculate. The interior looks superb. It's not thrown together with balsa wood and glue and hope. You know, it is a properly built concept. And actually talking to the guys there, they've been working on this car for a couple of years now, so kind of before really Geely were officially owners. So they've been working on this car for a while, and certainly the design of it they've been working on for a while. It's a lot further along than a lot of people seem to think that the car is. So it's actually closer to production, and I suspect that we'll start to see test mules running, well, certainly I think within the next 12 months. I think maybe even sooner than that. I had a long chat with Russell Carr, the designer. You can tell by the excitement that he has around the car about how excited they are to see it take shape, and some of the little things that he said to me gave me the impression that they are very close to a real car. This is not a flight of fancy. And also, you've also got to look at Geely as well. Geely as an owner, look at what they did with Volvo. They came along, bought them, gave them the money and gave them the freedom to be the most Volvo that they could be. And look at the range that they're producing now. They are the most Volvo that they could be. They're creating lovely looking cars that are really nice to spend time in, nice to drive, fantastic technology, safety and all that kind of stuff. Plus you've got all the Polestar EV stuff that's coming as well. So Geely have a track record, and they're not short of a few bob. You know, they are quite a wealthy company, and I think Geely will want to position Lotus as their halo brand. They will want them, you know, they want Lotus to sit atop all of their brands, to be the aspirational brand within their portfolio. So don't look at the Evija as some flight of fancy that will never see the light of day. It will happen. It will happen. I have every confidence that this is going to be a real thing. The only question I have is, are there 130 buyers out there for a £2 million+ Lotus? I don't know. I really don't know. There are enough buyers out there with that sort of money that have those sorts of collections. And speaking to the guys at Lotus, they say they've got a lot of people that have seen the car prior to it being launched and are seriously interested. So we'll wait and see. I hope they sell all of them. I hope they sell every single one of them. They also are saying that they can't force the people to use them. They're trying to sort of position, or they're trying to pick buyers that are actually going to use the car as well and get it out and actually use it as a driver's car, because that's the other thing about this chassis that they built. It's not about necessarily straight line performance and just speed. It's got to be a Lotus. It's got to drive well. In the same way that if you buy a Land Rover, doesn't matter which one it is, it has to go off-road, whether or not you go off-road in it or not. The same thing goes for a Lotus. If it's a Lotus, it has to drive well, it has to handle well, it has to be a driver's car. And they harped on about that in the press release, in the press launch, sorry. So yeah, so that's my thoughts on the Evija, whatever you want to call it. Evija, I think, is the official term. So that's what I think. That's what I just wanted to have a little bit of a rant on camera and defend the car a little bit. I've probably got a million other thoughts that I've missed and forgot to include in this video as well. So this is more of just a stream of consciousness. I haven't written this. I've just sat down, put the camera on, and having a chat with you guys. This is a new channel as well. I've done some videos on other stuff in the past, but this is a brand new channel to tie in with some of the journalism stuff that I do and other social media bits and pieces, and there will be more videos coming soon. We're currently working on a review of the new 992 Carrera 4S that we filmed the other week, and we'll be doing more and more stuff as the channel grows and things develop over the years. So if you like this, give it a like, give us a subscribe even, and yeah, we'll try to bring you lots of, hopefully, great content going forward. Cheers.